What it is. Everybody happy MLK Day. The day for a controversial figure, someone who has become a controversial figure, who didn't used to be, but now many people say they don't like they don't like what he did, MLK Jr. We could talk about that if you guys want to today. But we have news, even on this federal holiday. The big news of the day is that daylight savings time might become year-round. I know you've been waiting for that one. Daylight savings time might become year-round, apparently. That's what I read in the news today. So celebrate the extra hour of daylight that we'll get all year round now, but you'll wake up in complete darkness for a while. So I don't know if I'm in favor of that or not. Now, the big news of the day, there are two events, basically. We have anti-ICE protesters storming a church of an ICE pastor and Don Lemon being involved. And now Don Lemon is going to be prosecuted, apparently, under the KKK Act, ironically, on Martin Luther King Day. So we are continuing to go after the enemies of ICE exclusively, and definitely not going after ICE ourselves as a country, that is, at all. And so I'll show you guys what's going on. With that, I'll show you the protest. You can decide whether you hate it. Probably it's pretty bad. Pretty stupid stunt by the left. Probably bad enough in and of itself without there being charges, but they are talking about bringing them up on charges for interrupting people's worship services. So the other big news is Trump sent a letter, or I think he sent a text message and then turned it into a letter saying that the reason that we're going to take Greenland is because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. So it's pretty insane. So I have the news about Greenland too today. The rhetoric is really getting amped up on Greenland, not just rhetoric, but actually tariffs on top of everything else. So there is a question about us losing. Well, there's not really much question about it. We're losing our status as that city on the hill. And most likely, we are going to find out at the Olympics how much people really like America, because Trump likes to speak it into being that we are now respected worldwide. But I think we are something like the opposite of respected, although Putin likes us, I think. And Putin, I think, supports taking Greenland. And he has also been invited controversially to the Board of Peace. So that's the third news story today, as the Board of Peace is supposedly being activated, and it will be headed by Trump, lifetime, forever, regardless of who's in control of the U.S. government. So that's another controversial thing that Trump is doing, is the Board of Peace, which is supposed to look after Gaza, has it's a pay-to-play membership. You have to pay $1 billion to join the club, and apparently everybody's been invited to join. Like I said, even Putin and then some other controversial dictator types. So how are things going? I'll show you one poll today about how Republicans are regarded, or how the parties are regarded in terms of who's better at what. And I'm not going to show you polls, although I could have today, about how Trump is doing with independents, which is really, really, really badly. So we are in the middle of, we are at the beginning of 2026, the second year of Trump's latest term. And it's all gone completely sideways as far as public opinion about the things that he got elected for. So I'll continue to report on that. But it's the main concern I have now is that he's ruining the chances for anyone associated with him in the future, which includes JD Vance. So I'm really curious about the way things are going, and it just gets kind of more ridiculous every day. This letter to Norway, I mean, I don't even know what it is kind of just funny. I've seen the memes now of, Trump stole the Nobel Prize and gladly posed himself with the Nobel Prize. So people are making fun of him stealing kids' trophies and also like winning Miss Venezuela or whatever other prize you might want to give him. People are making fun of him for that, which I think rightfully so. He didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. And because of that, he is no longer interested in peace, apparently. Oh, he said predominantly. So I'll read you the letter. It's pretty funny. So anyway, we will give you the latest news. It might be kind of quick today. We'll see how much we get through it. I'll talk a little bit about the economy. Silver again today, even though the markets were closed here in America for MLK Day, silver is up again. It's over $94 now as far as spot prices, and you'd be hard to find an ounce. You won't be able to find a nice ounce of silver for less than $100 from any retailers. So it just continues to run. Gold continued to run again today. Many signs are lining up that we may end up in some sort of a debt crisis. And America losing the respect of its allies and others around the world could be part of that, because we need the dollar and U.S. treasuries to be strong, and they're getting weaker. And debt globally is not doing well, at least with us and with Japan. So interest rates are going up, which means mortgage rates will be going up. And then at the same time, commodities like gold, silver, and copper are going up, indicating we might have some kind of inflationary apocalypse. So this is what we are on the precipice of, with all of these world events going on, with America losing respect around the world and Trump doing Trump's thing. So that's where we are at today. All right. So I'll give you the latest news. I'll show you the video. I'll show you Don Lemon complaining about it. And then some other stuff that's in the news. We'll talk about AI. We'll talk about California, etc. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Great to see you as always. And we will play our intro. Okay. Cue musical intro. We will play our intro. Boy, that's brilliant. What's happening? What's happening? I just clicked on it. Okay. Cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news. Yes, something like the real news, even on holidays and weekends occasionally. No, not this weekend. So if you want to support the show or shows like this, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and drop a super chat like thing there, or several coffees, virtual coffees, and leave a note, and I will read them before the end of the show. So that's at buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Some people ask, do you have Cash App? I have Cash App at $sign LTV411. It's in the description. And then you can also buy our t-shirts. Let me share my screen with you, and I'll promote our t-shirts. All right, I'll show you our t-shirts, which we have on special right now. This is our website, Truth Revolution Clothing. That's truthclothing.io, where we have these shirts available on liquidation sale, mostly for $5 and $10. So check them out, truthclothing.io. We have our propaganda, baseball tee, our question everything t-shirts. We have our Bitcoin t-shirts, Bitcoin, HODL, Bitcoin saves, $5, $10. We have our Freedom of Faith shirts, even a kid's design for $5. And then we also have several question everything styles in female cut, slouchies, they call them. So they're really nice female designed, female centric shirts. So check all that out while you can get your size. That's at truthclothing.io. Truthclothing.io. That's our website. All right, let's get into the news. I'll show you guys the ICE, the anti-ICE protest. What are you guys? Have you decided if you're pro-ICE or anti-ICE? Well, I'll tell you what people are thinking is that people are thinking more and more that they don't support the way Donald Trump is going about the deportations. They did support it when he became president, and now they don't support it after seeing the different videos of what ICE is doing and so forth. All the same, the administration is sticking behind ICE. They will not be investigating Jonathan Ross, whose name you are not supposed to speak, who was the cop or the ICE agent, I believe, unless he was DHS, unless he was Border Patrol. I think he was ICE. That shot Renee Good. That will not be investigated by our FBI. They've confirmed that, and I'll show you that on the show today. So here is what happened at that church where anti-ICE protesters broke in. Apparently, the pastor is some kind of ICE deputy of some sort, or he's the head of some local ICE office. So they decided to storm their church on a Sunday. So I'll show you that video. Here it is. I think it's mostly white people in the church.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good!
Pretty annoying. Pretty annoying, I think. And they're talking about something that was basically debunked, I believe. Hands up, don't shoot from the protests. I forgot. They would hate me if I forgot the guy's name. The kid who got shot, who they said had his hands up and said, don't shoot. But then apparently later that was debunked, the reason behind those protests. But in any case, hands up, don't shoot. And then you must say their names. Renee Good. I think it's Renee
Good. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment. Exactly. Say your name. Renee Good. Renee Good.
Freedom. We have a duty to win. We must love and support one another.
All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No. Jesus would dine with immigrants. You do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens. Hey, you can't. You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Where are you? You're sinners. You're pretending to be Christians. But we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving. Shame.
While people are starving. Is he starving?
living real comfortable while the people starve, living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps.
Okay. All right. Yes, it is completely insane. Yes, this is the way, this is the kind of thing that the right prefers to see in videos, for sure, because it portrays liberal protesters as being completely unhinged, which they are. So that was the interruption of a church service, and the government will be going after them for that. And apparently Don Lemon was there, so I'll show you that. Stand up for your Somali friends and neighbors. Let's see. Here's Don Lemon interviewing the pastor. So it was a targeted church raid. The pastor apparently is the head of some ICE office locally. So they decided to go after his church. And yeah, it looked like it was mostly white people there. But then, of course, the protester who's being insane is also white and talking about starving children. Like, what is completely irrelevant. You're having your latte. Well, yeah, I'm having my latte and going to church. So completely insane protesters. It has gotten completely insane. They're beating people on the streets. I'll show you video of that too. Here's Don Lemon getting himself involved and apparently bringing himself up on charges for interrupting people's right to worship. So here he is interviewing the pastor, saying how he has a right to be there. I don't know if it's illegal. I mean, you're allowed to go into a church and you certainly are allowed to protest. I don't know for sure if it is illegal or not, but they are going after him. So I'll show you Don Lemon with his interview here.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we're here. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
no
Christian?
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to
Unless you're here to worship. Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. What do you think of this?
Don Lemon. Oh, God. Well, you guys think it's going to be a civil war eventually? Apparently troops are being prepared. Apparently troops are being prepared to go in there. As far as the protests go, they haven't seemed, it's nothing like the Summer of Love so far. They're mostly beating each other. They beat each other even when they don't know if the other person is anti or pro ICE. Do I have video of that? And then they're also beating pro ICE protesters. Like, I think the guy's name is Nick Sartor, went down there with the bulletproof vests and stuff, got beaten. I'm going to show you that. I'll show you that there. Here's Don Lemon saying they were whites. They're entitled white supremacists. How dare you? Why would you? It's the language of insanity. They're entitled white supremacists. Let's see that clip.
And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. And they think that this country was built for them, that it is a Christian country, when actually we left England because we wanted religious freedom. It's religious freedom, but only...
They wanted religious freedom to be nutty Christians, to be even nuttier Christians. That's why they wanted religious freedom. It's because they were like, what were they, Quakers and stuff? We ended up being. We wanted to be more fundamentalist Christian. And so we allowed freedom of religion. But it was Christians. It was actually Christian. It was actually white Christians. It was actually white Christians for the most part. Who knows if all of them followed. And Freemasons, actually. We should talk about that more. It was Freemasons who founded this country. And they wanted free people and stuff. Is this country built for us? Well, arguable.
If you're a Christian and only if you're a white male, pretty much. And so, yeah, I absolutely 100%, but it's an intimidation tactic. And, I said, I don't understand how I've become the face of it when I was a journalist. I do understand that I'm the biggest name there. And I'm also, as I was on with my producers this morning, you and Kylie talk all the time. My producers were saying, I said, how did I become the face of this? And my producer said, Don, you're a gay black man in America. And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement.
Right, it's replaying. Don Lemon with his finger on the pulse of things, of course. Still talking about white supremacy. Well, we do have some people who want us to be a white Christian nation. So it is true. Everything feeds off of everything. Everything feeds off of everything. Tell us we're racist enough and people become racist. So tell us we need to take all the immigrants and then we will want to get rid of all the immigrants, even the ones that are nice. So that's what happens. The natural push and pull of all things. Here's Jake Lang. I'm sorry. I thought it was Nick Sartor. I thought that was his name. Jake Lang, who's an anti-Muslim protester, I believe, from Dearborn, if I'm right, or at least he's been there. I think he's the one who showed up with the pigs' heads in Dearborn protesting in front of mosques and so forth and gets himself beaten. I think it's the objective of these live streamers to get beaten on camera. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if I'm outraged about it because it must be part of the plan. And he did come dressed for it, but there's some rumor about him being stabbed, I believe. So there is some violence at these protests. And I do not, in the sense that MLK was right, the best way to protest and get people on your side is to not be violent and to follow the laws as well as possible. Well, actually, sometimes if the laws are unjust, you need to disobey the laws. But in this case, they're following around ICE officers. If they're doing it right, if they're doing it legally, they follow them around and film them without breaking any traffic laws. If they're doing it the way they're supposed to do it, they do not want to break the law and get themselves arrested if possible and give people a reason enough to dislike them. But in the sense that violence is getting committed, I will show you that. I showed you them vandalizing cars and stealing guns and everything else. But overall, the protests aren't insane as far as I've seen so far. I haven't seen violence against the police yet. I saw one water bottle thrown at one point, but I haven't seen a lot of violence against the police. It's not too Antifa-like yet, but it will get that way. If we send in the feds, we're looking to amp it up to give us more content for the show. So anyway, here's Jake Lang being pulled out of a car and beaten.
Hey, stop. Wait, let them go. Let them go. Drive the car. Leave it up. No. Y'all just let him leave. That's not working. Hey, stop. Hey, let him out. Let him out. Fuck that nigga, man.
He's not even a nigga. Well, I guess they got him out. Apparently, he was picked up by some trans people who tried to save him. That's what I read. I actually saw pictures of him. Apparently, he was picked up by some trans people, maybe driving that car, because they just wanted to protect him, and then they dumped him after they realized he was pro-ICE, but I can't confirm that. Jenny Sparks says they did come after some delivery driver out here, and they nabbed the dishwasher at my brother's workplace. Yeah, it's interesting the way they're doing it. We could get rid of immigrants different ways. One of the ways we could get rid of them is to make employers report them or make it impossible for employers to hire them. But that's not what traditionally Republicans have wanted to do, because Republicans traditionally have been in favor of cheap labor, and the Koch brothers were big open borders proponents because we wanted cheap labor for corporations to keep their profits high. So it was traditionally a left-right agreed that, and that's why immigration reform would never get passed, is because both parties tacitly agreed that having open borders was good for one reason or another. Democrats, they say it's because of votes. Republicans, because of cheap stuff and corporate profits. So now we have changed our mind about it, although now people are pissed off. See, that's what happens when you go too far. They said they were going to go after the bad ones, and they started going after everybody. And then they don't follow the law or the Constitution, and they started going after people's Fourth Amendment rights. So we have the situation we're in now, which is where both sides have something to dislike about the other side, and it might just continue to get ramped up. We'll see. We'll see if we get feds in the street. I mean, more feds. I mean, soldiers. If we get soldiers in the streets, then we're headed to Civil War 2.0. So here is the FBI is not going to look into Jonathan Ross for sure, which I said wasn't going to happen. I think that it would be helpful for everybody if they did investigate it and then make the details of the investigation clear. And if it went to court, then people could see what evidence was presented in court. And then either it sounds like it would just be a judge that would determine whether he was guilty or not of a wrongful death. But the FBI is not going to look after it, according to Blanche here. So this is confirmation that will not be investigated. And instead, they're going after Renee Good and her wife, her widow.
Well, the governor's response referenced a number of things, going after Mark Kelly, he says, Alyssa Slotkin, Jerome Powell. But he also mentioned what Matt Finn mentioned in his reporting there. He says the only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her. So is the FBI conducting an investigation into that agent, into the shooting? What can you tell us about that? Will it be made public?
Look, what happened on that day has been reviewed by millions and millions of Americans because it was recorded on phones when it happened. Okay. The Department of Justice, our civil rights unit, we don't just go out and investigate every time an officer is forced to defend himself against somebody or putting his life in danger. We never do. That has nothing to do with what happened in Minneapolis. There are over 1,000 shootings every year where law enforcement are put in danger by individuals, and they have to protect themselves, and they have a lawful right to do so. The Department of Justice doesn't just stand up and investigate because some congressman thinks we should, because some governor thinks that we should. We investigate when it's appropriate to investigate, and that is not the case here. It wasn't the case when it happened, and it's not the case today. If circumstances change, and there's something that we do need to investigate around that shooting or any other shooting, we will. But we are not going to bow to pressure from the media, bout of pressure from politicians, and do something that we never do, not under this administration, not under the last administration. And so, no, we are not investigating. And if there comes a time when we need to, we will, but it's not now.
Is there some type of...
There you go. Even though he said millions of Americans have seen it and determined that it was lawful. Well, that's probably true. But then another number of millions of Americans have seen it and decided it wasn't lawful, including people in law enforcement. And they pulled the investigation from Minnesota. So personally, I'd like to see an investigation. It might have been legal. That's all. It might have been legal, but it'd be good to know for sure, because there seems to be some question about it. It might have been legal. But to not investigate it at all, I don't know. It adds to the tension that people are feeling, and it gets more people on the streets. So if they were investigating, it might convince some people, okay, they're being investigated. You know what I mean? Then they don't have a reason to protest and be insane out there. So imagine that said. I still say this is all by design, psychological warfare. They know how to control a mob. Yeah, no kidding. It is psychological warfare. It does seem intentional in many ways. It does seem like it's designed to provoke the left, what the right is, what people in the administration are doing. It does seem like it's designed to provoke the left. But then anti-ICE protesters go out and go into a church like idiots. So you have losers on all sides, basically. Losers on all sides. Some of the things that ICE, some of the investigations into ICE is getting paid per arrest. Some of the reasons that ICE people don't like what ICE is doing, even though they supported it in the beginning, ICE is actually getting paid for every arrest they do, even if they let the person go later, even if they weren't an illegal immigrant. So that's why you see ICE agents probably being a little more aggressive than they necessarily need to be in arresting people who might not actually be breaking the law. So they're actually getting paid per arrest because they have like a quota. They're supposed to arrest 3,000 people a day to get to their goal of deporting 1 million people a year. So far, they haven't deported that many. When they talk about millions being deported, it's because they're saying a bunch of people self-deported. And actually part of the reasoning behind them being aggressive and putting this stuff out on social media is to scare people into leaving. Self-deporting, basically. It's to make people uncomfortable being here. So if it's happening, well, maybe mission accomplished as far as that goes. But there are other ways to do it. You can make it harder for people to hire them. You could do something about the services they get, which we're also going after, welfare services and so forth. You just make it more uncomfortable for illegals to be here or more untenable. And then, yeah, they probably will leave. They'll be like, oh, America sucks. And we'll be like, that's right, America sucks. So anyway, the closing the border was really good. I support deporting illegals for the most part. Although I can see the argument why people who've been here a really long time working and not breaking the law could maybe, or people that get married. Like there are stories about people who got married to an immigrant and that person is still being deported, even though they're going through immigration services and stuff. That's kind of weird to me because there should be legal ways for some people to get here. And not all immigrants are bad for this country. But anyway, that's one thing that's going on with ICE. ICE is denying people lawyers. There's a story in ABC News today about them denying lawyers, and that the allegedly the attorney said they were told, imagine the chaos if we let one lawyer visit a client who's in detention, then we'd have to let all of them have lawyers. And imagine the chaos. Well, that's what's required under our Constitution. So it's even American citizens who are being denied access to attorneys while they're in detention. So paid per arrest, no attorney, citizenship checks. So anyway, that's what's going on with ICE these days. We'll see if it erupts into a civil war. We'll see if federal troops get in there. All right, here is the letter. So we'll move on to Greenland. The stuff with Greenland is insane. I think Trump thinks he can bully NATO and other countries into wanting us to have Greenland. I think he really thinks that. They said NATO is going to change their mind, but they're digging in their heels, and Trump is getting more insane, and the people in the administration are getting more insane. Here was the letter to Norway. So Trump wanted to win the Nobel Prize. He said he stopped 8.25 wars. He gave himself a quarter for stopping the same war twice, he said. He said he did it with tariffs, I think, for the most part. This is what he wrote to the Prime Minister of Norway, where the Nobel Prize is administered, which the government has nothing to do with. He said, "Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT." So that's what he said. Apparently he texted that person. I saw somebody post on Twitter. They were like, "Oh, I didn't get a #1 dad mug for Christmas this year, so I am going to no longer try to be a good father." It's just the extreme levels of petty involved. I believe if he had kept doing peaceful things, they might have considered him for the Nobel Prize for 2026. I believe the Nobel Prize had to do with what you were doing. I mean, I know Obama won one, which was stupid. And actually winning prizes is stupid. And actually, Maria Corchado wasn't deserving at all. So, but this level of pettiness is just, it just makes him look small, basically. It just makes him look like he's a child. That because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, he doesn't care about peace anymore. Okay, dude, no problem. So anyway, what he did was threaten tariffs. He said he's going to institute tariffs starting February 1st, 10% on all the European countries who I think sent some us to Greenland and opposed vocally his annexation of Greenland. Anybody that in Europe that opposed us taking Greenland, or him taking Greenland, basically, is getting a 10% tariff starting February 1st and then a 25% tariff starting June 1st. Because of that, Europe has threatened to pull out of our trade deal with them, which I don't blame them for. Stocks, even though the markets weren't open, stock futures were down significantly today. It's not good for America if we get into a trade war with Europe now. So Europe is threatening to retaliate. We can do tariffs based on it being a national emergency. Here's Scott Bessent, head of the Treasury, explaining what the national emergency is. And this is pretty hilarious.
Waiting the High Court's decision. What is the national emergency that justifies these new slate of tariffs?
The national emergency is avoiding a national emergency. That it is a strategic decision by the president. This is a geopolitical decision, and he is able to use the economic might of the U.S. to avoid a hot war. So why wouldn't we do that? Same thing.
Waiting the High Court's decision.
The national emergency is avoiding a national emergency. Well, that's not actually a national emergency. The Supreme Court has yet to rule on it. I don't know what the odds are. The Supreme Court is yet to rule on it, but statements like that make it more likely that they'll rule against the tariffs because they're not being done because of a national emergency. They're done at the whim of Donald Trump because he likes or doesn't like you. And he thinks they're the greatest. I saw the White House tweet out something where I think it said Mr. Tariff. And it showed Trump standing at the desk, Mr. Tariff. There is news on tariffs too. I've said a million times, Trump says we get tariffs from other countries. I've said a million times that he must know that that's not true, because tariffs are taxes on Americans. If he was suggesting that tariffs are from other countries because other countries cut their prices to compensate for the tariffs, that now has been debunked by the Wall Street Journal, who says that Americans and American companies are paying 96% of the tariffs that have been introduced. So now finally, maybe reporters will ask him what he means when he says the tariffs come from other countries. There's been an analysis of $4 trillion of shipments, which shows that foreign exporters absorbed only 4% of the burden, and that the other 96 were paid by importers and Americans. So the fact is that inflation hasn't gone up as much as it might have otherwise, because it's actually the importers and the businesses that have eaten the expense so far, because they don't think they can charge more, because Americans don't have any money except for the rich ones. So, but it could be that eventually those importers and those corporations finally pass on the cost to us, and then we'll have a larger increase in inflation. But there's finally been an article published that says, oh, yes, actually Americans pay for tariffs. So Nigel Farage is one of our allies. This is how he's responding to the Greenland thing.
Trump is bluffing.
I mean, he likes Trump, supposedly.
Trump is bluffing when he talks about a tariff for nations such as the UK. And Mr. Rosendale, can I ask you, have any Conservative MPs since your defection reached out and are seeking your counsel on potentially doing the same?
Whether Trump's bluffing or not is always difficult to tell. But to use economic threats against the country that's been considered to be your closest ally for over 100 years is not the kind of thing we would expect. It's wrong. It's bad. It would be very, very hurtful to us. Now, I think we're in a position where we can negotiate. You know, we're not tied. We're not tied by European Union trade rules. That does give us an advantage in these negotiations. But I would just say this. I'm all for Trump taking out enemies of the West. Maduro, the Iranian regime. But if he falls out with his own allies and leaves America isolated, that would be a very bad place to be. So I'm worried about it. I'm concerned about it. I've always been a supporter of the president since way before he got elected first time. But I will be having some words with the American administration in Davos on Wednesday on this issue. It's wrong.
Oh, yeah. Trump is going to be at the World Economic Forum this week announcing the New World Order. And he wants to have a signing ceremony for the Board of Peace. The Board of Peace has been launched. We're into phase 2 of the Gaza plan. This is the phase that gets totally effed because Hamas is never going to give up their weapons. So far, he was going to win the Peace Prize because he created peace between Israel and Gaza. But that peace is, in my opinion, very unlikely to be sustained, because Hamas isn't going to give up their weapons, and they're probably not going to give up control. And if they don't give up their weapons, Trump says he's going to go after them. So either Israel or the United States is going to start bombing Gaza again. And then we'll see how that peace presidency and this Board of Peace holds up. So the Board of Peace is him, Kushner, somebody from Apollo Financial, Rubio. He is the permanent, Trump is the permanent leader of the Board of Peace, and he's invited other world leaders to join, and it costs $1 billion to join, and nobody knows who the $1 billion goes to. They say they're concerned. There's a lot of concern about it amongst Europeans, and Israel actually is concerned about it too, because Trump invited Israel's not best friends like Turkey and Saudi Arabia to join the Board of Peace. Turkey, I don't know if it was Turkey and Saudi Arabia or Turkey and Qatar, but he's invited people who are friendly with Hamas to join the board of peace with him. And all that it matters is that you give him $1 billion. And then he is head of that board of peace permanently, forever, regardless of who's in control of the U.S. government. It's not the U.S. government. It's actually Donald Trump personally who will be the head of the board of peace. Tony Blair is on there too. And everybody loves Tony Blair after what he got involved with Iraq. So that's the board of peace situation. People aren't happy about that. People aren't happy about Greenland. Europe may retaliate against us, which is not good for U.S. businesses, not good for the stock market, not good for our treasuries. And I said the yields on treasuries are going up. We could be headed towards something really terrible. So anyway, I thought I'd show you a few polls. Here's a statement actually from the president of the European Parliament on the United States taking Greenland. So
the European Union supports Denmark and the people of Greenland, and we do so united in our resolve. The measures threatened over the weekend by the United States administration will not help improve security in the Arctic. In fact, they risk the opposite. Greenland and Denmark have both made clear that Greenland is not for sale and that their sovereignty and territorial integrity needs to be respected. That fact will not change. The European Union...
That's it. So I don't know how much more clear they have to be. He's just going to keep saying it over and over and over again that we're going to take Greenland. He's not going to take military force off the table, although I don't think we're going to do that. It sounds like our military is not willing to, based on earlier reports. So it'll just be continuing us being bellicose and threatening and them saying, no, you can't have it. So I have no idea how it's going to end. But that's that. I'll show you people still support Republicans more than Democrats for these several items: national security, immigration, trade, foreign policy, national debt, economy, and taxes. So Republicans are still more popular than Democrats in all those areas, although people don't like Trump personally for many of those same issues. It's not that they like anybody else more. They just disapprove of what Trump is doing. But Republicans still hold the lead in many important categories, including on the economy, as much as people hate Trump. Trump hates Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie looks like he's way ahead. He's going to win his Republican primary, so that's good news. He has a 75% chance of winning the primary against him with the primary opponent chosen by Trump. So this is an important indicator because Trump thinks that he can just endorse people and make his enemies lose. So Thomas Massie is apparently still popular in his district in Kentucky. I'll show you that. We had another meeting of Jewish people where they talk about what they're going to do to Americans who don't support Israel. This was the Israeli American Council. Just seems like every time you turn around, there's another meeting of one of these groups where they talk about how they're going to imprison Americans for talking inappropriate ways about Israel. We have Governor DeSantis speaking at that meeting, and he'll be a candidate, I think, this time around too. Who, he's all right on a lot of issues, but on Israel, he's completely unhinged. So here he is speaking at that conference. Let's see if it's any good.
When you say from the river to the sea, you are chanting in favor of a second Holocaust.
Right.
That's what that means. Now, I do think some of these students are just ignorant. I don't think they understand even what they're talking about. You hear some of them talking about end the occupation of Palestine. And I just think they need a little history lesson. There has never been a Palestinian Arab state. Prior to the First World War, you had hundreds of years of occupation under the Ottoman Empire. It was not a Palestinian Arab state. Then you had the British Mandate for Palestine. Then you had a partition plan from the UN, Jewish state and Arab state. The Jews accepted the state and founded Israel. The Arabs rejected the state and they went to war to try to eradicate Israel, and they lost. And they went to war again.
Who
and
was
they
there
lost
first? I
in
wonder.
67 and 73 and throughout the intifadas. And so, no, that land historically has no stronger connection than any group of people except the Jewish people. It goes back thousands of years. Read your Bible.
There you go. And they're chanting USA. I think they don't mean USA, but that's fine. Well, it was promised to them thousands of years ago, and they came in and used terrorism to kick out the Arabs, and then they won wars. That's true. From the river to the sea. But the Israelis want to have everything from the river to the sea. So is that a genocide, or is that... Here's Pam Bondi talking about the things she'll be doing for Miriam Adelson because of anti-Semitism on campus. Let's listen to that.
Under her leadership, the Department of Justice has made combating anti-Semitism a top priority, especially in response to the alarming rise in incidents following October 7. She brings moral clarity, resolve, and an unwavering commitment to justice to this critical fight. Please welcome my friend, the 87th Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi.
Miriam Adelson is amazing. What she has done for Israel, for our country, and for this world is second to none. Thank you, my friend. The sad truth is, for way too long, anti-Semitism has been allowed to grow unchecked in this country. Too many institutions have abdicated their moral responsibility to speak up. Too many so-called leaders have stayed quiet. Actions have consequences, and inaction has consequences too. We've sued violent protesters under the FACE Act for intimidating Jewish Americans worshiping at synagogues. This is the first time since its passage, the FACE Act in 1994, that it has been used to protect a house of worship. Working with Secretary Linda McMahon, who has been a champion for you as well, and Harmeet, we have secured a $200 million settlement with Columbia University for violating the civil rights of Jewish students and Jewish employees. We've secured a $75 million settlement with Northwestern University for anti-Semitic conduct. We've secured a $60 million settlement with Cornell that includes provisions to halt anti-Semitic conduct. And we've launched a full investigation into University of California's system for systematic anti-Semitism.
Amazing. Look at all the things we're doing, the Trump administration is doing for us to stop crime. Yes, we're taking over the universities. So anyway, that's going on. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was in there, who says that they're trying to make sure that the younger generation is brainwashed appropriately.
We have a problem generationally, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or independents. The next generation of Americans, the next generation coming up behind us, does not understand the importance of a strong Israel, an Israel that should always remain a Jewish and democratic state. And they don't understand that we as a people have contributed boundless significance and impact in countries across the globe. Anti-Semitism is growing, and there are young people who believe that the Holocaust never happened, an astonishing percentage, that it wasn't 6 million, that it was a number far fewer. We have to make sure that we are creating educational opportunities and bringing young people together across the divide, cultures and religion, to make sure that we don't have a generation, as we lose our Holocaust era survivors, that we don't have a generation that believes that there is something wrong with the Jewish people and who fosters instead of fights anti-Semitism. That's a commitment we all have to make to one another and reach across the divide in many different cultures and communities. So thank you so much.
That deserves a big round of applause. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you, everyone.
There you go. God, it's so unfortunate. As if people haven't been told in class that 6 million Jews died. As if they haven't been told enough about the worst event supposedly in human history, which is the Holocaust of the Jews, where they killed 6 million exactly. And if you question that number, you're a raging anti-Semite and Holocaust denier, even though the number is by all admission an estimate with no records, and they burned all the evidence, apparently. I mean, there are no bodies, even officially. I've gotten into that before. It's so insane. Yeah, it definitely could be 6 million. Or you literally have to say it definitely was exactly that many, or you have to say it was more, like Nick Fuentes did on Piers Morgan. But then when you ask for the evidence of it, they just tell you you're an anti-Semite. So then you say, okay, well, sorry, I didn't mean to ask for evidence or anything. I mean, and maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, they did persecute Jews. They were, the Nazis did persecute Jews. Hitler wrote the damn book about it. So to deny that is ridiculous. Or deny that Jews were killed is also ridiculous. Or to say that the Holocaust didn't, or that nothing happened is also ridiculous. But anyway, pretty insane. Well, they've already lost young people, but basically by the actions of Israel. But you can't say that either. You can't say that Jewish people in any way are responsible for anti-Semitism, because that's victim blaming. But people are saying it nowadays. So anti-Semitism is wrong, though. Just hating Jews in general for being Jewish is incorrect. Because actually not all of them think the same, just like not everybody of any group thinks the same. All right, so that's news. That was from that Israeli-American Council meeting to talk about what to do about all of the anti-Semitism. We'll see if censorship comes again. Here's in Miami, the mayor is pro-Israel, and this is a person who criticized his pro-Israel stance and got a visit from law enforcement. So I'll show you that visit.
Picture to make sure it's you. We're not sure.
Okay.
Is that your account?
I refuse to answer questions without my lawyer present. So I really don't know how to answer that question either
well,
way.
like I said, you're not going to
This is freedom of speech. This is America, right?
And
Veteran.
And I agree with you 100%.
All right.
We're just trying to see if it's you, because if we're not talking to the right person, we want to go see who the right person
Okay,
is.
how can I help you?
So pretty much it's just a statement that was made as far as,
verbatim, it says the guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians tried to shut down a theater for showing a movie that hurt his feelings and refuses to stand up for the LGBTQ community in any way. Even leaves the room when they vote and on related matters. Wants you to know that you're all welcome. Clown face, clown face, clown face. 3 days ago.
So you don't know if it was you?
I'm not going to answer whether that's me or not.
Okay.
The concerning part, and not concerning for the person who's posting it, what we're just trying to prevent is somebody else getting agitated or agreeing with the statement. We're not saying it's true or not.
Understood.
That guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians, that can probably incite somebody to do something radical. That's all we're here to talk about. And we wanted to get your side. If it was you that posted that, I would think to refrain from posting things like that, because that can get something
I
incited.
appreciate your concern. I appreciate you coming out here.
Okay?
That's it?
That is it.
Okay.
I'm going to maintain my amendment rights to not answer the question about whether or not that's right. I hope that's
Thank you for your time.
understandable.
We appreciate it.
Thank you
Yeah,
as
have a good
well.
day, okay?
You as well. Thank you. Take care.
So she gets a visit from law enforcement. Well, at least they're not locking us up like they are in the UK. Incitement of violence. You're actually kind of allowed to incite a little bit with the First Amendment. It has to be something where it would immediately incite violence against something specific. You're actually kind of you're allowed to call for genocide, actually. That's actually, freedom of speech to do that, because that's not considered inciting violence. Otherwise, Israelis would be in trouble for talking about killing all the Palestinians. So you actually are allowed to call for genocide, believe it or not. And so from the river to the sea, which they say is calling for genocide, they want to make that illegal to say that from the river to the sea, because it's inciting genocide. But that's actually legal to call for genocide. And you can definitely do it about Americans. You can definitely say kill all the Democrats, or all Democrats should die, or it'd be better if Democrats didn't exist and stuff like that. I think you can kind of say that, actually. Or you could say it about Republicans. They do that all the time. Or you can celebrate the death of political figures. You're allowed to do all that stuff. But for some reason, because of the Holocaust and the memory of the Holocaust, they want to make sure it's illegal to say anything controversial about the state of Israel. Otherwise, you're going to get accused of inciting violence. All right. Anyway, that was the section of the show called Jew News. Let's get to economic things real quickly. The proposal for our future is that we live in a form of communism created by the abundance of the machines. The proposal by the oligarchs, the tech bros, is that we will have everything we need provided to us by the machines, and we won't have to worry about money ever again. People are concerned they're going to lose jobs, which I think they should be, because actually the robots are designed literally to replace humans. That's what they've been designed for. The fact that they haven't totally done that yet isn't an indication that they're not going to succeed at what they're trying to do and getting investment for. A startup says, we're going to make a robot to replace customer service agents. They get billions of dollars from investors. We're going to make a robot to replace Amazon factory workers. Amazon invests billions of dollars into robots so that they don't have to hire people to work in Amazon warehouses. That's what they're doing it for. So to say that people are wrong when they're worried about jobs being replaced is like the highest level of gaslighting. Anyway, I thought I played this clip. I haven't even listened to it yet. This is a clip of an AI guy who says that jobs actually won't be destroyed. So let's listen to what he's going to say.
I believe that AI is going to cause massive labor shortages. I don't think we're going to have enough people to fill all the jobs that are going to be created. There's three things that are going to happen because of AI. The first is massive deflationary pressure. This cup of coffee is going to cost less. Your housing is going to cost less. Everything is going to cost less, which means people are going to need less money because you're going to have robots that are going to be farming the coffee more efficiently. You're going to have better supply chain management. And what that means is people will need to work less. And that's going to lead you to number two, which is people are going to opt out of the economy more. They're going to work fewer hours. They're going to work fewer days a week, and they're going to work fewer years. They're going to retire earlier because they're going to be able to support their lifestyle working less. And then number three is we're going to create new jobs and new new industries that don't exist today. Think about 100 years ago. 98% of the workforce in the United States was in agriculture. 2% did other things. When we were able to reduce that to 2% of the population working in agriculture, we found things for those other 98% of the population to do. The jobs that are going to exist 100 years from now, we can't even contemplate. 100 years ago, the idea of a software developer made no sense. 100 years from now, it's going to make no sense, but in a different way because everyone's going to be vibe coding, right? And influencers, that wouldn't have made sense 100 years ago. But now that's a real job. People make millions of dollars off of it. So what jobs are going to exist 100 years? So number one, deflationary pressure. Number two, opting out of the workforce because of that deflationary pressure. And number three, jobs and companies that couldn't exist today that are going to exist and are going to need labor. We're not going to have enough people.
There you go. That's what he says. Somebody in the chat says he's right. The town crier says he's right. Well, it is true that we can't imagine the jobs that are going to be created. And it is true that influencers didn't exist, but we can't all be influencers. We can't all be influencers because somebody has to work and pay influencers. Somebody has to advertise with influencers for the people who want to buy gold and silver. Nick Fuentes is finally taking a gold sponsor. He's apparently going to make 7 figures from it. And they're probably going to rip people off. Somebody needs to buy things. If we have a massive deflationary death spiral, which is the main thing that I'm concerned about, because I understand how technology works, technology gets cheaper. TVs are cheaper. Phones are basically cheaper when you take inflation into account. The iPhone really hasn't gone up in price since it came out, and it's obviously way, way better every single time. You basically get it for free now with your cell phone plan. Cell phone plans are cheaper. Internet plans are cheaper. Things, because of technology, get cheaper. If robots do the farming, the food should get cheaper, but that is not, for one thing, the Federal Reserve is there so that deflation doesn't happen. And if deflation ever starts to happen, they do things to combat it, like print more money and cut rates to zero. And how are people going to save money in a deflationary environment so that they can retire? Because inflation is the reason that home prices go up. Inflation is the reason that stocks go up. And inflation is definitely the reason gold and silver go up. So if we have deflation and everything is going down in value, then you want more dollars, right? But how do you make more dollars if there are no jobs? I just wonder, he says we can't imagine it. Well, I can't imagine it either. I can't imagine the jobs that are going to be created either. But this time, is it that we can't imagine the jobs because they really don't exist? That's my question. Is it that the jobs are really going to be replaced? Or is it that they really won't exist? Well, we'll find out. That's what that guy says. We're actually going to have a labor shortage. We'll see. one of the things I thought we might get subsidized first is power, because the AI needs power badly. So here's some solution where the government helps everybody get free power in their house. It might not be insane. It's a proposal by Chamath on the All In podcast. So this is how we might all get free power. Already the government is getting involved. So we are turning into the intention is for us to become communists. One of the reasons I support getting rid of illegals is because if we're going to be communists, you have to have closed borders. It's important. If you're a communist, you have to have closed borders, because you can't give away your free money to anybody who wants to come in. You have to control who's allowed to be here if you're giving everybody welfare, which we kind of already do. We kind of give welfare, where the amount of welfare going out is huge. 40 million people on food stamps right now. Lots of people on Medicaid. So that's what's being proposed. That's what Elon Musk proposes, is a form of communism, which is insane because it's never worked before. So how are we going to make it work with these robots? Well, here we go. Here's a proposal for at least free electricity.
I think the president should try to create a $500 billion tax equity fund and help eliminate the electricity costs of 50 to 100 million American households.
Amazing.
If you actually go to solar and storage, for every 15 million homes, you take a terawatt hour of demand off the grid. That's an extra terawatt hour that you don't need to build. So the reason why I like solar and storage is you make these folks so self-reliant. Now, all of a sudden, we're actually catching up to China faster than we would have otherwise. We actually get a 2-for-1. The consumer homes don't have that anxiety anymore. They don't have the bill. And because they're generating their own power, they're off the grid. And now what that means is that extra terawatt hour can actually go to the commercial and industrial applications, including these data centers. The president preserved the ability to make those kinds of investments and be tax advantaged for doing it in the One Big Beautiful Bill.
And if we want to live in the age of abundance and we want to bring the bottom half of the country up and we want affordability, where do people spend their money? Food, groceries, their rent, and their electricity and the utilities. So it doesn't come out of Americans' pockets and their taxes. It comes out of corporations, which are printing money. If you want to talk about redistribution of wealth, this is a way for the great American Max 7 corporations to give something back to Americans.
We will look back and I think that we will want to have seen these big companies who are unbelievably profitable step up on behalf of American homeowners.
There you go. That's going to be the first situation. I said that was what was going to happen first. We're going to get free power. That'll be what they do first because they need it so much. And because it's only for their benefit actually to do that. Because if we don't get our power subsidized, then people are not going to allow more data centers to be built. They'll lobby their congressman and say what Bernie Sanders says is stop this shit right now. And what Florida is saying too. No more data centers. If they want the data centers, if they want to do the AI, if they want to build the robots, they're going to have to subsidize the electricity most likely. So that is what's kind of happening right now. Not a bad idea. And getting people off the grid is a great idea too. So not to say I'm opposed. I'm a capitalist, but I'm not opposed. In regards to deflation, these are charts of how much alcohol is being stacked up, which means that maybe alcohol is because nobody drinks anymore. Might have to do with phone addictions. I'm not sure. But these are charts of how much whiskey, I believe, is being stored and aged right now because maybe because people don't have money. Young people don't have money. That may be one reason they're not drinking. They also have cannabis, which they've shown now makes people not drink as much. But these are things that would be deflationary, which would be that alcohol could become cheaper if they have to unload all this stuff that's sitting in their vaults. One of the things that was reliable to make money on forever. Well, drugs and alcohol. I mean, drugs, it's the same as Starbucks. They sell drugs. Mostly they sell sugar now. People are still addicted to sugar. Me too. I have donuts and coffee. My coffee doesn't have sugar in it, but my donuts do. I make up for it. But we'll see. Alcohol might get cheaper. Just showing you that. Show you what people, so all the billionaires are leaving California because this is what the politicians think of them. This is Kara Swisher talking about the billionaires that were going to be targeted. There were going to be about 100 billionaires targeted to steal their assets in California. And now they're all leaving, including the heads of Google, including a bunch of hedge fund managers, including Elon Musk. They're all leaving California now because California is proposing a wealth confiscation tax, a 5% confiscation tax, which is totally unconstitutional and illegal. But because of that, all the rich people are leaving, and actually California will get none of their taxes anymore. So I'll play you what she thinks.
And I think what it is, it specifically targets this, about 100 people, I think it is, who are threatening to leave California, except for Jensen Huang, who's apparently staying. I have of two minds of this. One is, you made and I said it to one this weekend. I said, you made all your money in California, you ungrateful piece of shit. You could figure out a way to pay more taxes, and we deserve the taxes from you, given you made your wealth here. The second thing is, yes, there are different ways to do this, but the length of time it would take and the kind of vehemence you would fight whatever happens means nothing would happen. So why don't we just do shock and awe at this point? Because you don't seem to be, availing yourself to thinking that you owe your state something more, which they don't think that at all.
They don't. They think that that there's waste and that there's abuse, and there is some waste. I'm not going to say everything we've been spending is perfect, but the point is you have a real crisis here.
You like those earphones? Town Crier says, do you have cold ears? I know those earphones are insane. Yeah, that's what they think of you. You made your money here. We deserve your money. Some states don't even have income tax. Why does California deserve money just because people made money in California? It wasn't like California gave them the money. Finally, I think OpenAI is going to go out of business, and that's going to be a problem for the AI boom. The AI boom, I don't think AI is fake. I think it's going to do the things they say, but it's just like the internet boom in the late 1990s. They overbuilt their infrastructure before people were ready for it. And that was why the crash happened at the end of the 1990s, the dot-com boom. Well, the same thing is happening now. OpenAI committed to trillions of dollars of investment, and they don't really have a business model that's going to make the money back. And now they're running ads, which Altman said he wasn't going to do. So he made a tweet saying they're starting to run ads in ChatGPT for the free and cheap tiers. And here is what he said about ads originally.
I kind of think of ads as like a last resort for us for a business model. I would do it if it meant that was the only way to get everybody in the world like access to great services. But if we can find something that doesn't do that, I'd prefer that.
There you go. That's what he said. And now they're running ads. So I think OpenAI is going to go out of business. They're not going to be able to support what they're doing. So that could be the reason for the great crash of 2026, 2027. We'll see. Who knows? We can't predict the future. It's just that we show you evidence for why things might go into a deflationary death spiral. We'll see. Stocks, real estate, etc. They're running ads. You can just use Gemini or Grok. No ads. They basically give them away for free. I just use Gemini for pretty much everything. You can use the pro version for free for as many requests as you really need every day. I've never run out of tokens on Gemini, and I have on OpenAI, so I just don't use it anymore. ChatGPT. They don't have a business model for success, so we'll see what happens. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Let's check our coffees. That's the news for you guys today. Hopefully you found it enjoyable and informative. We want to make sure you're informed about what's happening in the world so that you feel like you are a participant in this great thing we call life on Earth. I think I was frozen when I said that. We'll see. Someone bought 5 coffees Someone bought 5 coffees. Thank you. An anonymous person bought 5 coffees who said, God bless you, Nathan. Follow Jesus with all your heart. He's our only hope. Thank you for that. Well, I do. Thank you for that. I do my best to try to follow his teachings. So thank you for that. I do my best. I'm not perfect, though. Nobody is. Nobody is except for him, apparently. So thank you for that. To someone who bought 5 coffees, we will turn that into coffee and donuts for you so we can do research for this show and play pickleball. Played pickleball today, got in trouble because I almost spiked a woman in the head, which is apparently really bad etiquette. I had to be told off today by old people playing pickleball because I almost killed someone. So I got to be careful now. Okay, thanks for that. That Jesus wouldn't have wanted you to spike women in the head with your pickleball. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Great to see you. We'll be back tomorrow around the same time or around a slightly different time, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. The Lift the Veil show here on YouTube. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll give you all the news tomorrow as well. All right. Thanks, guys. For now, that's what it is.